Hello again in this Maya courses. Now we're gonna go into modeling. So I'm gonna show you how to do some modeling in Maya. So we're using Maya 2022, and I believe since 2016 it's kind of the same tool for this. Maybe there is tool more, tool less. If you use 3ds Max or other softwares to do some modeling, you're gonna find a lot of similarities. So first of all, don't forget you set the project in a location you want to have all your datas. So I was putting this here, you set, and when you're gonna save, you're gonna have access to this. So don't forget to move in the space. You use Alt and left click to have the rotation on the space, and Alt and right click to zoom and dezoom. So let's go on the basic tools. Let's create a cube. So you can go in poly modeling here and have a cube. Make sure you have outliner on the left, attribute editor on the right, and the channel box on the right. And you can go into the modeling panel here. So if you see here, you have modeling, rigging, animation, FX rendering. So it's just gonna change here the basic access to something useful, but we're gonna learn to use space. So if you use space on the viewport, you have, so this is the viewport. If you put space on the viewport, you have access to mesh, edit mesh, and mesh tools, and that's where we're gonna mainly work to create stuff. So let's use a cube here. We press F to focus. So if I'm far on the scene, I'm looking elsewhere, and I press F, I go back in the center of the universe, and I can walk like this. So don't forget W to translate, E to rotate, and R to scale the item. And you can see all those transformations on the channel box on the right. It's pretty handy. So let's start with the basic tools. Let's go and use, so first we want to extrude a face. So extrude a face. So you select, you do right click on the object. If you right click outside the object, it's gonna show you all the stuff. But make sure you select the object. So when it's in green edges like this, it means it's highlighted and it's selected on the viewport and the outliner. You do a right click and you go into faces. And now you can see the red face here. It means the selection of the face you want to select. So you left click on one face and you press Ctrl E and you can extrude the face. So let me do it again. You here, you want to extrude, you can do space, mesh, so it's my edit mesh, and you have extrude here, and you can see Ctrl E the shortcut. So these kind of shortcuts are here because this is some action we use a lot when we model, extruding a face. So we extrude here. And now when we extrude, you can see on the side there is a little window popping and thinking about the thickness of the extrusion. If you do a negative thickness, it's going inside. The local translation, so this is the translation of the face. And the offset, so as you see what it's doing is like merging the face, connecting the face. The subdivision, so you can see the number of division you have on the mesh. And keep faces together. If you put off, it means if you put the face and you move it, it's gonna get alone and not connected to the polygon. So this is one way to connect. So we can use this to the translation. We can do Ctrl E again and reuse the action. Now we have poly extrude face 2, or like I say, edit mesh and extrude. And as you see, we can continue doing this, and we can have like this specific geometry. When you do some modeling, you can press 3 on the on your numpad. Press 3 on the numpad, and you can have access to a preview of the smooth version. So this is very like preview stuff. Maybe you don't want to see that. So this is a way to extrude geometry. So we take again, we go in faces, space, edit the mesh, extrude, and we can use those manipulators to move as well the face, or we can use this window here with some specific settings already done. Okay, so that's the way to create objects. So that's the way we want to, in modelization, we want to make sure we work with 4 faces for simple assets. When we have triangles, it's for very specific reasons, like characters or other mesh solutions. But we really want to work with faces of 4 edges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 face, and 4 vertex here. So that's the way. You can also do what we call edge loops. So go on mesh tools and you have insert edge loop. What it's gonna do, you're gonna insert an edge. You can see the highlight in all the mesh. So now in the orange line you can see it's taking all over the mesh. This is really good. This is a way to create more details and make sure it's aligning on all the face of the geometry. So it's like a loop. Why a loop? Because if you see on the animation, what's happening is like you want to make sure you still have faces of 4. So this edge loop means you can basically make a line splitting this and still have always 4. So you're dividing everything by 2 on those faces. Like here you can do it as well, and you're gonna split here as you see. So this is without, and you see it's gonna split all these faces in 2. So it's very important. Edge loop is what drives animation. So if I put edge loop character, you're gonna see this is the edge loop we want in a character. We want the edge to be on this, because why? We want this to move along the geometry when we're gonna do animation. So we want this to be connected together. So that's mainly for animation purpose for a character, but that's also for a clean way to work. You know, you can see on the body here, we want edge loop on the chest, on the shoulder, on the back, at specific locations. So when we do animation, we know we can use this to move, and it's gonna be more easy to work with. So this is really something you can learn on the side if you want to do more character work. But edge loop for like props, it's kind of the same. Like we want, for example, you have here this guitar, you want to have an edge loop on the side if you want to add geometry or stuff like this. So this is really interesting. Keep the edge flow, so that's the number of edge in the geometry, having a good and logical purpose of everything. So this is one of the tools, the edge loop tool. We can do as well what we call the bevel. So bevel, basically, it's like, look at this edge here. If you just take this edge, for example, and you do an edit mesh bevel, you see is creating another face in the face based on the edge. So you can do multiple fractions, so it's like the size, but you can see multiple segments, you see. So it's creating all the options, and as you see, when you go to like 4 segments, a triangle pop here. So that means it can't generate a face of 4. So this is a face of 4. You have like here enough to do stuff. And what's happening is like if you compare now the left and the right, you can see here the bevel side is taking the shadow another way, more smoothly. It's like a round corner. And this one is very sharp because there is only one edge. So this is gonna be the way and the tool we're gonna use to make software transition in the edge and to make sure we have like something more catching shadow in a smooth way. So when I press 3 to see the result, we can see here like a very specific like smooth deformation, and here kind of a corner because the disc is constraining the mesh to create this shape, and that's why you're gonna have this stuff here. So the bevel is for that. You like working in a piece of metal and you want this top part here to be beveled. So you can double click to see how long is the edge flow. So you can see here, we take all those 4 and we go to space, mesh, edit mesh, bevel, and we have here the bevel. So we can use maybe 3 segments, with the depth. You can see the depth, so if it's coming across, the fraction, if it's very close edge. So what happens if it's close? If it's close edge, what's happening is like this transition on the shadow gonna be sharper as well. So more spread and more smooth, you know. So let's back to this, and here you can have, so what we see in the little window is basically a shortcut on the channel box. So on the channel box, if you middle click, you can change the stuff. You can also go in and press the number of subdivision you want. Maybe you want no depth, maybe you want a very tiny fraction. So you see tiny fraction and big fraction, you see. So very different results. So that's very important to understand this. So keep, you know, practicing and doing stuff. So you see, like the depth is too extreme. So basically, when we are in the mesh, we have this mesh going overlapping. So you're gonna create some wrong stuff. So we want to go back in the bevel here and do a fraction of maybe 0.6 and have something more like this. So when we smooth, it's going like a round corner. So this is one of the tools we want to use. We're gonna just press 1 back in the sharp mode. So when I say press 1 and press 3, this is on the numpad, okay? This is this part of the keyboard here, and when you press 3, you have access to the stuff, and here to the other one, okay? So this is just preview stuff. So you're here and you want maybe to do, so we have like some situation, like let's say those two faces are deleted, and we want here to have something a bit fancy like a cockpit. So we're gonna select the edge here and the edge here, the edge here, the edge here, and we want to connect this. So we're gonna space and we're gonna do what we call the bridge. So the bridge gonna just, you see, merge those two faces, those two edges, to create a face on the middle. So we can do the same process here if we want. We press G to do the last action, and you can see actually here and here. So that's because I use some bevel here, so I can't reconnect this. So what's happening here? This is one situation we can come across. We're just gonna delete the face here, this one, this one, this one, this one. So all the face we don't really need, and we're gonna put the vertex close to each other. So we don't want this vertex as well and this vertex as well. And now we want to connect all these to make the same look at this one, okay? So we're gonna take the two vertex here and go in what we call the merge tool. So the merge tool is for merging two, you see, two vertices. So now it become one, and it can be helpful for multiple reasons. So here we press G. So G is the last action used. So G, like Google. And if you don't, you can just go here, edit mesh, and merge. Same here, we want maybe to delete this one because it's not useful anymore. We want to connect those two, and we do edit and merge, like up here. So now, as you see, we have the exam set look as the on the right here, and we can move the vertex just to check he's not disconnected to the other parts, okay? So that's also something you want to learn and you want to do in your geometries. So this is the extrude mode, the bevel, the bridge. This is some very classic stuff you're gonna use, okay? When you model like this, you can do also symmetry. So you can go here, but the symmetrize, there is the mirror, I think it's more mirror. Yeah, mirror here. So if you press mirror, you see it's mirroring the geometry in the same way. But if you look at the edge, you see it's not really connected to one another. So if you delete this face, you see it's one object. So this is the kind of mirror tool you want to do maybe. So maybe you want to mirror in another axis. So you're here, you want this to be the same as this one, so you go here, I move it a bit on the cell, so it's like it's not on the middle but a bit offset from the center of the world. We go mesh, so space, mesh, and mirror. We can go in the little box, so I do it again here. On the little box on the right, you open more parameters, and this is for every single tools having multiple options. So here I want maybe to mirror in this axis. I apply and I can see here the stuff on this axis. If I want in this one, in there, this one, let's select everything and apply, and you can see it's doing like a copy of the geo, and that can be handy for multiple reasons. Here I have a hole, so I want to fill the hole, so we double click on the edge, we see it's taking all the edge, so it's a proper edge loop. Edit mesh, mesh tool, and no, the fill hole is not here, is not here too, is here, fill hole, remesh. So you see it's gonna create a face based on the edges we have. Okay, so I'm just gonna move this window, nothing to be here. We can see here there is something weird on the, like when you see on the looking, like something is a bit off with this face. What's happening? And we're like, okay, what's happening here? It's pretty odd. Why is doing this? We don't know. And the shape is good, so all good. So here we are with our geometry. So we have seen fill all. So we have what we call the remesh. So remesh is basically gonna interpolate a mesh on top of this one to make a new one. So we can do remesh, and you can see is remeshing with triangles. We can maybe do a remesh here and do like, oh, we want 20% more, 20% less. This is what we may be gonna use on the future to optimize geometry. On the mesh side as well, you have the triangulate and quadriangulate. So that's when you want the software to try its best to remove triangle to quadriangulate, or from quadriangulate to triangle. But for triangle, it's very easy because it's just gonna split all the face in two. But for the quadriangulate, it's gonna be a bit more hard. So here you can do it easily because it was just split on the middle, but still there is some part here he can't move, you know, so it's not like that smart. Load from here to here, from mesh to triangulate, he's gonna create those two edges, but from mesh to this you're gonna remove here, so we have this kind of weird triangles now here when we can just remove. You see here too there is some artifacts. This is some very wrong automation. We really want to make sure we do it manually, so we're gonna Control Z to come back to our geometry. So whatever the geometry you have, even if you don't have this one, is just for you to test the tools and to understand what's happening on the software. So yeah, you can smooth as well the software. So what happens in the smooth is gonna create one subdivision for each polygon. So basically here now you can see all the stuff is twice more heavy in terms of faces, and you're gonna round all the geo because now there is more connection from one face to another, so it's less sharp. Okay, so that's for the basic tool on the mesh. I'm just doing Control Z. Let's see on the edit mesh. So we're gonna take a look at the chamfer vertex. So we are here on the middle and we want to create a hole here, and we're like, okay, we would like to create a hole on this place. So we're gonna just select this top vertex and be here and do a chamfer vertex. And here you see is creating a new, from the one vertex we have, is creating 4. So it's creating this face. We're gonna be useful for us to maybe put a hole, put an object, put something here. So we want to have the chamfer vertices, so poly chamfer here. The width is just gonna be the width, the space between the vertices, and we can play with that for maybe opening. So we're gonna take this there at the middle, and when we are here on the tree, we have a perfect hole, and we can maybe put another geometry here to play with. So that's the kind of thing, the chamfer we want to use. Why this is a good tool? Because it's using the hole based on one vertex, so your shoe is gonna keep clean. Very important to modeling on a clean way. So now you're just learning the tool, but at some point you're gonna want some clean meshes. So this is kind of tool for cleaning, for to do a hole and stuff like this. So yeah, I'll let you experiment in the other tools here, but this is the main one you need to know. So let's review a bit. We are here, we want to extrude here, Control E, rotation, translation, and we can transform. We can also, we want here to have all those vertices into one vertex. We select the 4 of them, press space, go on mesh, and select edit mesh, edit mesh, and select merge. So now we can see the threshold. If you put 1, it's gonna connect into one single vertex, and this is good because that means now we have connected this to only this point. So that's pretty good, pretty handy. So yeah, if you want, now this is more a demonstration of the tools, but we're gonna later on have a more advanced usable of these two of specific projects. So if you want any question about modeling in Maya, don't hesitate to talk to me on the Discord, and we can talk through. If you're modeling something and you experiment a problem, if you have something like you can't resolve or geometry you don't know how to do it in the modeling, we can talk about this, and I can give you a roadmap to how to model this kind of stuff. So yeah, basic tools here, modeling the changing the model to achieve a good look. Okay, so see you in the next video, and thanks for